a walkout, the first of its kind ever in the history of video game development, how the future of PUBG in China might be in a little bit of jeopardy, some major revelations regarding the future of Grand Theft Auto 6, and how Gearbox is in the news again, but possibly not for really the right reasons. All that, plus a look ahead at the next week here at Player One Esports. I'm Scan, welcome to Game Center. Starting off with our top story this week, over 150 members of Riot Games' staff staged a major walkout earlier this week over the company's stance on forced arbitration regarding sexual assault and sexual allegations cases. Now, Riot is currently in the middle of as many as 5 lawsuits with current and former employees taking part, and it really seems that the friction has come to a point that something needs to change. And Riot appears to be listening. Riot is not going to be punishing anyone taking part in these walkouts, and they have made it clear that they are reconsidering their current stances. This is the first of its kind ever in the history of AAA video game development to see a walkout like this, and it's going to be very interesting to see in the time to come the kinds of effects this may have on the industry as a whole. If you've never heard of Pastebin before, it's a website where you can go on and post an absolutely massive wall of text that anyone can grab an easy link to and share that wall of text around with anyone on the internet that they want to. Now, what's interesting is one of those particular walls of text earlier this week was removed. It was removed because it seems to be a ton of details regarding Grand Theft Auto 6's plot and settings. Some really huge news. I mean, it's Grand Theft Auto. It's arguably the biggest video game franchise of the modern era when you stretch all the way back to GTA 3. And this time, it appears that the game is going to go back to the East Coast. And I say the East Coast because I mean like the entire East Coast. This game is apparently going to take place in both Liberty City and Vice City with an enormous stretch of highway in between, with you acting as essentially a drug runner between the two cities. Again, none of this can be officially confirmed. It was a Pastebin post. No one really knows how reliable it is. But it is important to note that this post was taken down very shortly after it was originally put up on Pastebin. So someone had to ask for it to be taken down. So take it with a grain of salt, but if you ask me, that might add just a little bit of validity to these initial leaks. There are 70 million players of PUBG Mobile in China. No, wait, no. There were 70 million players of PUBG Mobile in China, but no longer. Now there are 70 million Game for Peace players in China, as PUBG has been completely replaced by a different game by Tencent in the country. Now, the game is unfortunately against the rules of the Chinese government when it comes to what is and isn't allowed in games in the country. It's a complicated situation, but mainly boils down to blood in the video game, the amount of violence in it, and most importantly, and the main reason they are issuing for the game swap, as it were, microtransactions. So now when you die in Game for Peace, you don't die. You sit down on the ground, wave at the person who just shot you, and then just disappear off into the ether. The game is very pro-Chinese and very pro-military, and it's pretty much a carbon copy of PUBG, despite the fact that Tencent has come forward and said, no, it's a completely different genre. But you have to at least admit, it is a really interesting situation to see PUBG, one of the most successful games around the world of the past few years, having one of its most major markets in the world completely wiped off the table. So Randy Pitchford, the guy hasn't really been in the news for all the right reasons recently. If you don't know who Randy Pitchford is, he is one of the heads of Gearbox, who make the Borderlands series, and most recently got into a huge Twitter tirade with Game Informer magazine regarding Game Informer's article on microtransactions in the upcoming Borderlands 3. And now he's in another Twitter spat, but now with David Eddings, the former voice actor for Claptrap, who left Gearbox in 2017 and now works for Rooster Teeth. Now, why did he leave? If you ask Pitchford, it's because it was a bitter and disgruntled disagreement between the two. If you ask David Eddings, it's because Eddings was physically assaulted by Pitchford in the lobby of their hotel at CES 2017. So two really different stories here, if you ask me. And now it seems to be continuing on to an issue between Pitchford and famous video game actor Troy Baker. And you have to ask yourselves, and I'm going to ask you to say in the comments, if you think that this is going to have a negative effect on Borderlands 3. Does Pitchford need to do something? Does he need to release some sort of announcement, some sort of apology? Will this affect sales of Borderlands 3? Does it affect your opinion of Borderlands 3? Because to me, I'm going to play the game no matter what, but I can definitely see that this may have an effect on some players' desire to support him and the company. Don't forget, this weekend, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, to check out Phase 2 of the NPL, continuing with days 3 and 4 of competition. Player One Esports enters this weekend in 8th place, and you can check them out, and please do support them by going to twitch.tv/playbattlegrounds. Looking ahead at the week here at Player One Esports, we have Rocket League, we have Fortnite, we have PUBG, we have plenty of opportunities for you guys to compete here and win money at Player One Esports. If you want to figure out how, and if you want to see links to all of our social media platforms, you can find all of those at playeroneesports.com. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of Game Center. Thank you for joining me. I have been Scan. Game on, everybody.